You're listening to Big World Network.
Canticle of Night, Episode 1. Written and read by Michael Young. Jürgen Müller paced the front room, his fist clenched. "There must be some mistake, Herr Doctor. I am fit and ready to fight." The doctor shook his head, gazing down at his clipboard. "I'm sorry, Herr Müller. Your mind and vision are sharp, but your lungs are far too weak. You will not be able to withstand the heat of battle, and that would make you a liability." Jürgen pounded a fist against the wall. "But, Herr Doctor—" "No, Herr Müller. The army does not pay me to recommend effective soldiers. We are not that desperate yet. I'm sorry, but I'm sure I can't sign off on this enlistment." Jürgen's face reddened. "Is there nothing I can do?" "I could be a cook or a mechanic. I don't have to be in the trenches." The doctor pursed his lips. "Everyone must fight, Herr Müller. I see that your father is serving, and I've already cleared your brother Carsten for service. Let them carry the torch for your family, and you can keep the home fires burning." Jürgen was glad that his ample beard hid most of his flushed face as he grabbed his cap and turned to go. "Thank you, Herr Doctor," he muttered. "You've saved the army from me." He slammed the door behind him, and then tore the cap from his head, wringing it in his hands as he showed himself out of the doctor's office. Jürgen sat on the bus, staring out the window as the streets of his hometown flew by. Not even the familiar brightly colored buildings or peaceful snow-capped forest could cheer his sunken soul. He had lived in this city, famous for its gemstones, all his life, and it appeared that he would be living there the rest of his days. The snowflakes swirled outside the bus window, and Jürgen hummed softly to himself, trying to work out a melody in his head to distract him from the dreariness of the day. The melody had come to him the other day when he had been walking alone in the woods, and had visited his mind many times since in bits and snatches. The more he tried to capture the melody, however, the more it slipped away from him, gone in an instant like a snowflake landing on his ungloved hand. After a short ride, Jürgen disembarked from the bus at the closest stop to his house, and a half-hour later he stood and stared at the two-story house he called home. The place had been in his family for generations of carpenters who had trimmed it with exquisite woodwork. Its current lackluster appearance only hinted at its former prominence in the community. War shifted priorities, and now repairing the house wasn't one of them. Jürgen paced around the old structure in the snow, biding his time. Surely Carsten would be glowing about his future in the military. Glory of Germany, this. Family honor, that. Jürgen couldn't take listening to all that now. His fingers and toes, however, grew number with each passing minute. Not for the first time, he wished the house had a back door, so that he could sneak in unnoticed. Trying to clear his mind, Jürgen stopped and closed his eyes, picturing the 88 black and white keys of his piano in front of him. Letting his mind fill in the sounds made by the keys, Jürgen played through a sonata by Mozart from beginning to end. On the final repeat, however, he got stuck, playing the same passage over and over in his mind until he threw up his hands in disgust. Even his vivid imagination was no match for the real thing. With the fear of frostbite sitting in, he could wait out in the cold no longer. Like it or not, he would have to face Carsten's maddening happiness. Wanting only to get it over with, Jürgen flung open the door and dashed toward the back room off the kitchen that served as his music room. As he barreled through the kitchen, he glimpsed Carsten, his brother's mouth full of red cabbage. Praising his luck at finding his brother incapable of speech, Jürgen muttered a cursory "congratulations," and disappeared into the piano room, locking the door behind him. Ignoring his brother's protests and insistent knocking, Jürgen sat at the wooden upright piano, closed his eyes, and launched into the sonata using the actual keys. As the music progressed, he felt everything else melt away, replaced by a profound peace. He imagined the notes as a magic spell, each individual note a spark of glowing energy. In 3 weeks' time he would cast a spell over an audience at the concert hall in Kaiserslautern. Then they would all see that soldiers were not the only ones who could wield power. Until then, his dominion was limited to this single room. Here he was master, but anywhere else he was an impotent weakling. He played song after song, rehearsing everything he would present in the concert. His brother's protests lessened, and then ceased completely, leaving Jorgen free to play late into the night. At last he could take it no more, and he slumped forward, falling asleep with his fingers still on the keys. Even in dreams, his mind filled with the music, transporting him from the cares of his waking life. He only wished that he could take the music he heard in his dreams and capture it on paper. He was sure that then not only would the woman he loves finally return his advances, but his countrymen would finally see him as something more, something valuable to their society, a man worthy to raise on the pedestal next to the other German masters. He did not wake again until morning, and did so with a pounding headache. The room contained only one small window, and the sunlight that streamed in did nothing to warm his spirits. It was the day his brother would leave for the front. It was the day of his greatest shame.
You're listening to Big World Network.